And I think we're moving forward to our next speaker. Tobias, are you here already?
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Hey, hello, welcome.
Hi,
yes.
thanks.
Tobias is Consulting Director Growth Services at About You, and he is based in Germany, just as About You is, right? Although yes. I think you are already working in, what was it, 19 different European markets. So I think it's becoming quite big already. Yeah, and I think you are going to tell a little bit more about especially the commerce solutions and of course also about you itself and the whole platform. So take it away, Tobias.
Absolutely, cool, thanks. Yeah, let me share my screen quickly. You should see it now.
Yes.
Is it coming? Can you see it?
Yep. Yeah, it's working.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. As said, my name is Tobias. I'm Director Growth Services at About You Holding. I think that's important to highlight. We at About You have two different business lines. Number one is the About You fashion platform. And the second one is Scale, which we just introduced in beginning of November. I'm part of the latter, where I'm supporting brands basically to scale their digital direct-to-consumer business. That's also what I'm going to talk today about. I'm going to lead you quickly to the developments, how we look at the European fashion market, and then how we look at individual players, how they develop, and then ultimately what are individual recommendations that you as brand or retailer can pull to drive your direct-to-consumer business. So when we jump in, we do see that the European fashion market is experiencing a massive channel shift towards online. And I think that is not big news to you, but when you just look at previous numbers, growing online roughly at 12-13%, while offline is growing significantly at lower rates, and that is all driven by an increase in online penetration rates. We do see that consumer electronics, for example, is still far beyond fashion. So there's still a lot of headroom to grow. And then we do see that smartphone and social media usage is skyrocketing as well. And that is all driven by a digital native Gen Y and Z generation. We, for example, at About You, the fashion platform, do have 80% of our traffic coming through the app. So obviously that will drive spending going forward as well. But when we look in the center of the chart, you do see that also compared to other verticals, the market is yet very fragmented. The top 6 only count roughly 25% to our numbers. So there's lots of headroom in online fashion for brands, but also retailers to capture that market and basically be successful in the online space.
Tobias, sorry to interrupt, but there is something with your sound. I'm not sure if there's maybe something at your microphone, or maybe you can.
Let me check again.
I think it's already better.
Now it's better?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yes, better.
Cool. Let me know whenever it's worsened again.
Yeah.
Cool. So when we look at going forward, how will growth develop? I think it's here that we share. I think continues to rise, right? So we believe plus 10% going forward, and also when you look on the right hand side, post-COVID is going to continue to rise the online fashion market. So I think the key message here in the previous slide is really that online market needs to be captured by our brands and retailers, because that's going to be the dominant channel going forward. When we then look at regional differences, I think that's the second key finding, is that regional growth differences exist. We are with About You fashion platform in 26 markets, and we are performing well because we are very strong in Eastern Europe. And Eastern Europe is growing them more than 12%. And that is obviously providing significant upside for all brands and retailers active in that region. We do believe that it will persist for the next 10 years, more or less. Because also new competition like Zalando is entering the regions and will further drive up the penetration rates. So that's from a market perspective. When we then look at the individual players, we do distinguish 3 different types of players, I would say. There are big platforms like Zalando, Amazon, and About You in the fashion space. There are retailers like Revolve, ASOS, Booz, or also from Germany, you might count in the Bräuninger or P&C. And there are brands like an Adidas, Levi's, Mango, and S. Oliver, which are the 3rd type of players in the market. And then on the vertical side, we differentiate between 3 different parts. We do think of the access layer, where essentially the question comes, who is holding the active customer relationship, holding the digital shopping experience, and is also handling transaction measures or any post-purchase CRM measures. Then secondly, the enabling layer, where we believe it's very much about who is processing the respective order from both tech, fulfillment, but also payment perspective, and providing customer service. And then the last layer is who is actually providing the item which is being shipped or sold online. And in the crossroad of those, we do believe that there are going to be major share shifts going forward. So when you look at the access layer, we do believe that platforms will continue to rise. Simply because they have a much broader assortment they can share, and simply because they have already such a dominant position in the market that they can afford spending more money on customer acquisition than others do. And when you look at the numbers, About You growing at more than 50%, Zalando 40 to 50%, that is basically massively outgrowing a market of roughly 10% development we have seen earlier. And then secondly, we are super optimistic for the brands, right? So all the brands who have already out there a community of buyers, they should actually be able to also defend this access layer or even grow with it, because there will always be people who are very passionate about a certain brand and will therefore order it online. We are less optimistic for the retailers, but we can skip that one for a second. And moving to the second part, to enabling layer, where we believe that it's really a scale game. So the one who is larger in online fashion, retailing, will ultimately also own the enabling layer, because simply the more boxes you ship, the more efficient you are, the better or the larger warehouses you're going to have, and the higher will be your cost advantage on, for example, fulfillment perspective. And in terms of payment processing, the same holds true actually, because you will just have better bargaining power versus Klarna, PayPal, etc. Right? So when you obviously look to the right, it will be that the larger you are, the better you're positioned to own that enabling layer going forward. And no news here. I think platforms will be dominant there as well. Retailers probably keep share, and brands will ultimately lose unless you're not Adidas, Nike, or any larger brand, which have also sufficient scale in their D2C. And then last one is product layer, where, and I think that's important here to highlight, while we do believe that platforms have a superior capabilities on access enabling layer, that's where they're going to lose. So they will never be able to provide great products in the private label assortments, which will actually make the difference for a customer. And that's really where brands will stick out and ultimately create an assortment which everyone loves, which can either get on the direct-to-consumer channels, on your own channel, or on the individual platforms. So that's a little bit how we look at the market. And then from when we believe, when you follow that rationale, that platforms will win in particular on access and enabling layer, and brands will win on access layer and product layer, then there comes a rationale from that, which is relevant for all brands and retailers out there. Number one is you need to collaborate with the leading brands. Zalando, About You, etc. But that is not part of today's discussion. It's more important that you scale your own direct-to-consumer business, because obviously everything is going to online, and then the question arises whether you want to give it all up to the platforms, to the About Yous and the Amazons, Zalandos of the world, or whether you want to have your own stake in the online business through your own direct-to-consumer channel. And we do believe it's the later, that you should have a large direct-to-consumer business. And that comes basically from the following rationale. From an ambition perspective, it's clear that it holds tremendous advantages, because when you have your own customer relationship, you will gain extensive data. you will be able to personalize, you will be able to upsell, you will be able to test certain assortments on new products way better than you can when you're always in a wholesale relationship, just providing the product and then having no communication with the customer. Secondly, you will have higher margins, obviously, and you have full brand control, in particular in terms of pricing and which product and brand where to show. Those are just key advantages I think everyone will follow. And the bigger problem is how to actually then bring it on the road and execute on it. Then obviously when you believe in that ambition, it comes to the question where to play and how to win. On the where to play angle is clear that you need to focus on the core, so on the fashion itself. You might opportunistically expand towards home and living, as we see now for Zara and H&M. But it will be, I think, for larger brands always more opportunistically that they add it as drop shipping, but will never be able to really drive differentiating assortments in a whole different category. And then the last one, strong European footprint to capture on the Eastern European opportunity I've outlined earlier. And then the key question comes how to win. And there we do believe that there are two main recommendations. Number one, you need to achieve parity versus and About You and its Zalando on hygiene factors, and I come to it in a second what that actually means. And then secondly, you need to differentiate selectively on 3 to 5 unique selling proposition which a platform can actually not hold. So being able on par on hygiene factors and then choose something is Zalando About You can actually not copy. If you do that, you will be able to win in direct to consumer. Now double clicking on the individual parts, how to achieve parity. And that is something we also at scale talked a lot about, because that actually is providing exactly the offering we believe we need to bring to all the brands out there to drive the direct to consumer business. Is threefolded. Number one is the commerce technology, right? So you need a tech stack, which is in that sense modern and innovative, right? Which means in tech, it needs to be headless, API-driven, cloud native, and super flexible to onboard new features and be able to scale your performance in terms of Black Friday events or any other sales events, right? But you need to be able to bring on new features like live commerce, new payment methods, etc., very quickly in order to be competitive versus an About You or Zalando and Amazon and any other large platform. And secondly, in the tech part, it's that you need to have a localized user experience, right? And that comes with the flexibility on the front end that when, for example, you want to grow in Eastern Europe, you need to have cash on delivery, you need to have the Croatian language, you need to have the Croatian post who will actually deliver the product. And you will also need to have the sorting, which reflects the behavior of a customer from Croatia. So all that is only if you reach that level, then you can say, yes, on technology, I'm actually on par with leading platforms. On commerce operation, it goes in particular to the areas of fulfillment and local customer service. Fulfillment, you need to be able to quickly deliver to all European markets in 2 or 3 days with a convenient customer experience, right? That the return label is already printed. It sounds to many so simple, but when you look out there, many have not executed on that properly, right? And then secondly, local customer service, that, for example, you need to provide the customer service in the native language in the respective countries you are in. And then lastly, it's online marketing, where clearly you need to acquire or engage with them, with the customers on the respective markets in the most relevant channels. For example, we use About You influencer marketing a lot to get an exchange with our customer community. But this is something every brand needs to decide for themselves to reach basically parity with platforms. And then secondly, it's important that you need to be able, once you've acquired the customer, you need to get the most out of them. Because obviously in a world where we are all bidding on Facebook, Instagram, etc., in an auction system for more visibility, you need to get the most out of your existing customer, because it will ultimately decide how much you can spend for a new customer. And that is the flywheel, which is Zalando and many others already playing big time. that you can spend more money on customer acquisition if you get more out of it. And About You, for example, it takes 18 months until a customer is profitable, right? But we know he or she will stay with us for 3-4 years and even more longer, then we are able to capture a customer lifetime value, which is significantly higher than break even after 18 months. And then secondly, when you look at the part of differentiation, that is where we do believe that brands, but also retailers, need to differentiate selectively versus platforms. And that is just 5 different areas where we believe the differentiation can come from. It can in particular be from branding, that you have a strong brand story. For example, luxury watches do that very well, and you convey through your CXP platform. It can be also that you have a superior assortment. Adidas and Nike are doing that well, that you have, for example, exclusive assortment, which will be only available in your direct-to-consumer channel and will not be available on platforms. So actually customers have a need to go there. It's in terms of distribution that you might use your retail channel you still have and the access you have.
Tobias, sorry to interrupt again, but it's getting worse.
Okay.
With the sound.
Let me try. Now better again?
Yeah, it's again better. I don't know what happens, but yeah, it's better.
Strange. Okay, cool. So the last one is, or the next one is distribution, and where, for example, can hold an event in
oh, sorry. It's worse.
Okay. Now better?
Yeah, I believe so.
A little bit?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think the last 2 then, loyalty program, I think that is the one to call out here. And that obviously About You or Zalando will never be able to run a big loyalty program simply because of the many brands they have. Something you will be able to differentiate yourself towards the customer. So essentially as a brand, we would recommend to launch a loyalty program with great benefits, which ultimately, differentiates you again versus platforms. But to sum it up, that's how we look at the market, that you need to grow direct to consumer business because online is the dominant channel going forward in fashion. And when you look at the player landscape, you need to work with platforms, but secondly, you need to build your own direct to consumer channel. And in that, you ultimately need to achieve parity with platforms and differentiate selectively. That's all we think at scale, how we essentially can support brands.
Thank you, Tobias.